Hi everyone. Today I'm doing a video on how to survive in extended isolation, rather coping strategies that are good for extended isolation. As you may or may not know, if you followed me for a while, I was pregnant 7 times in 9 years. I have 4 living children, 4 daughters, ages 14, 11, 8, and 5, about to turn 6. Now, during that, by the way, I should put a content warning on here because we're going to be talking about pregnancy loss, and we're going to be talking about certain medical symptoms that people could have reactions to. So content warning for medical stuff and pregnancy and infant loss. I have 4 wonderful living daughters, but I also have a condition called hyperemesis, where during pregnancy I basically throw up all the time. I had it with varying levels of severity for all of my pregnancies. And what ended up happening is, if you take all 7 of those pregnancies over all 9 years, I spent a total amount of time of 3.5 years just laying on the couch, throwing up. That was not easy. That was not easy at all. If you saw me on the social media platform that you like all the time, that's why. If you wondered why I never left the house or never contacted you outside of your favorite social media platform, that's why. And that wasn't the only time. Those 3.5 years were not the only time I was confined to the bed during those pregnancies. So add on additional time for being hospitalized with one of the miscarriages, where I had to have surgery to have a tumor removed the size of a softball from a torsioned ovary. Add another time for, with Faith, I was on bed rest for over a month with a 2-year-old. Add on to that the various other things that we as a globe, as an international community, are dealing with right now. We were also flat broke. I didn't have the money to hire a babysitter. I didn't have family close by. The closest biological relative, close or not, was 10 hours away. Everybody else who lives in small towns generally has family they have to connect with and people they have to deal with. And I don't know if anybody realized exactly how bad it was for us. So you know what that means right now? It means right now I can help you. It is my time to shine when it comes to making something good out of all the nastiness that happened to us. The whole God works all things together for good for those who loved him and are called according to his purposes. I'm not saying that somehow God is bringing something good out of the suffering that I endured or the loss of my children, because I did lose 4 children, and one of them we know was a boy, and we named him Isaac. I am saying that I do believe right now God can use the lessons that I've learned during that to help you during this crisis. So we're going to go over 4 things, possibly 5, because I left my book in the other room. Yes, I did. That can help you cope during this global crisis. Sorry, this all just took on a little bit more urgency because I found out my friend Stephanie, whom I've only ever met on Twitter and Facebook, is going to the hospital right now. And she's been quarantined for a long time. And just please pray for her, because she's like, it's different to drive away after hugging your kids when you don't know if you're ever going to see them again. Please pray for her. Everybody and every one of these people deserves our effort, and that's why this is so important. So the first thing you need to think of when it comes to coping with isolation is laughter. Now, during this time, all of us in the entire world have so much anxiety. We all have so much emotion running so high. Sorry, I haven't done this before, given a video this long before, so I'm not sure how to arrange things. We all have emotions running so high that we don't realize that the whole window of what is acceptable has changed, and we need laughter to reset our internal state and try and bring about a little bit more normal and balance into our lives. Whatever it is that makes you laugh, start hoarding that instead of toilet paper, because you need it every day. The first sign of your mood dropping means you need to see something funny. You need to laugh and see something funny. You get what I'm saying? I used to have a Pinterest board, and it was just, at first it was just called Geekery. And I put as my little comment under there, you can tell how bad I'm feeling by how many memes I add today. Or you can tell how much I've thrown up by how many memes I add today. And literally things like Tony Stark or funny Spaceballs memes or whatever made me laugh from college, or making fun of things that used to make me laugh in college. This random joke about hot dogs. If you were a hot dog and you were starving, would you eat yourself? Sometimes my husband would just say that joke because it was so random and it was such a part of our lives in college, it would make me laugh. So whatever it is that makes you laugh, you need to hoard that. I have thousands of memes saved on Pinterest. I used to scroll through them and add to them every day. Start a playlist on YouTube of your favorite comedians or favorite cat videos, favorite parody songs, Weird Al Yankovic. And by the way, guys, if you're a comedian, this is your moment. You now have a world-saving job. And yes, I am speaking to two different guys who are both named Eric. You now have a purpose and a mission from God. You have, as comedians right now, you have a chance to make a genuine difference in the entire world because you can help lift people's spirits in one of the most difficult times in human history. Yeah, I just amplified your random comedic jokes to the level of changing the world because they actually are. That is what is going to keep people sane. And not just sane, it's what's going to balance out the level of crushing anxiety that's coming on their heads. So your number one priority, as far as order of operations for how to cope with this, is laughter. All right, number 2. Make sure you surround yourself with things you love in your space, and make sure that your space is a place you enjoy being. That's kind of big. So make sure your space that you're in is a place that you actually enjoy being in. Take whatever steps you need to take to make sure this space is enjoyable or comfortable for you. This doesn't necessarily require money, but I'll give you more tips on organization in isolation and how to be in isolation when you're broke later on. Leave any questions on that in the comments, because even though I had 3.5 years worth of experience just with dealing with isolation when you're broke and just with dealing in organization and isolation and being immobile. That doesn't mean I've had your experience. So leave your questions in the comments and I will try and answer them in those next videos. But when I say make your space someplace you enjoy, this is, roses are my favorite thing in the world. I, made sure that I had roses. This chair, I adore this chair. I got the chair for free off of Craigslist in Annapolis. I have silly things I really enjoy. This is Captain Janeway. This is Wonder Woman and her kick-ass sword. Yes! I am Diana! Darmok and Gelada Tanagra! My children are saying that's weird, but I don't care. This is one of those things that's keeping me sane. And, obviously, Q thinks that I should have learned Temerian much more effectively by now. And really, what is my problem? And Guinan hates Q's guts. So, I also have string lights. I love my string lights. All of these things make me smile. Whatever it takes to make your environment happier for you, do it. I don't care if you have to print out pictures of your black and white pictures of your favorite musicians, color them and tape them on the wall, or stick them on the wall with bubble gum if you can't get tape. Right now, do whatever you have to do to make your environment enjoyable, to make your environment life-giving. Because if you have to stay there and it's not life-giving, then that's going to make it a lot harder to stay in isolation. And it's going to make it a lot harder on people like my friend Stephanie, who is depending on people like us to stay put. Okay. So what's the third thing? Because I got all emotional about that. So the second thing was love your space. The third thing was find some small way to move forward in your goals. And that does not mean, everybody's going to be able to start a work-at-home business. Please, for the love of God, do not join a multi-level marketing company during this crisis. And so help me, anyone who starts advertising multi-level marketing stuff on this video or any social media page of mine is going to get banned. But this doesn't mean, find a way to work from home necessarily. This doesn't mean write the great Shakespearean whatever. But to whatever degree you're able, you can find a way to advance at least one of your goals. And the most helpful thing that I learned while I was trying to figure out how to do that was from a songwriting conference. I got to go to a songwriting conference with a wonderful teacher on the program, and I don't remember his name. I just remember he co-wrote the Jenny Owens song, and I will go through the valley if you want me to. This guy told the story of Dr. Seuss, and he had been commissioned to write a children's book that would replace the horrible "See Dick run, see Jane run, see Jane run from Dick because Dick is a jerk." He had been given the task of making children's literature that was more engaging and a lot less boring. But he was given a list of words, and he was like, all you can use are these words. I forget if it was 100 or 150 words total. And good old Dr. Seuss, Theodore Geisel, was not happy with these circumstances. How on earth do you write a book with 100 or 150 words? What works in that situation? And eventually, after banging his head against the wall enough times, I guess, he decided that he was just going to rhyme the first two words on the list, and the list was alphabetical. And those two words were cat and hat. The rest is obviously history. Whatever your goals are, try and find a way to develop them within the limitations you're in right now. You will be shocked at what might come from that. Obviously, Dr. Seuss never woke up and decided, I'll write a book about the cat in the hat coming around and being like a freaking creepy stalker while mom is gone. No, that was born out of a specific set of circumstances that he had no control over. And you don't have any control over this isolation. You have control over whether or not you're going to infect other people. And you have control over whether or not you're going to take care of your mental health enough to cope with this isolation. But you don't have control over the fact that the only way to save lives is to be in isolation. So what are you going to do within this crappy set of circumstances to advance your goals? You can think of something. It's not going to be normal, and it's not going to be what you had in mind. But it is going to be something. And if it has the amount of impact that the cat in the hat does, all the better. Next thing. While you are in isolation, and this is hard, I'm going to give a content warning here for anybody who has problems with conflict or family conflict or just who has any kind of trauma revolving around that. While you're in isolation, you need to remove as much negativity and conflict as feasible as possible from your life. And that's hard, and that's not fair. And it's not fair to the person you're having to remove, and it's not fair to you. But there's only so much you can cope with, and you should not feel any shame with that. My family didn't know that correction, no one knew what living with this kind of isolation was like when I had my first pregnancy. And so they didn't understand that calling me with family drama every day, twice a day, 3 times a day, was really not possible to cope with. Whether it's someone who has a substance abuse problem or someone who has even if it's someone who has a legitimate claim to your time, you have to learn how to set appropriate boundaries to take care of your mental health. This is not an excuse to neglect your loved ones. This is saying, right now, there's only so much water any container can hold. And when you're isolated, that's a lot less capacity than you have normally. So when you are in isolation, be very aware of when your container is getting too full of negativity and take whatever steps you need to take to remove it. Isolation should be a last resort for a reason, because isolation is in and of itself an abuse tactic. It is it's something you do to prisoners of war that's banned. It's something that's a punishment in prison. And if you're alone or isolated because someone else is making you do that, that's abuse. But here we all have to choose to do that in order to protect people. So please don't take anything I'm saying as minimizing how hard isolation is. It's bad. All I can do is give you ways to make it better. And finally, when things get bad with a pregnancy, when things got bad with the pregnancy, the only thing that I could do to comfort myself was to say, I am getting a baby at the end of this. I am getting a baby at the end of this. Because some days, it didn't matter how much I tried to laugh, or how much I tried to enjoy my space, or how much I removed negativity, or how much I tried to advance my goals. Some days it was just too much to cope. Some days I couldn't get the smell of vomit out of my nostrils. Some days I would find out later on that it had been in my hair because I couldn't actually physically make it to the bathroom to take a shower. And so when that would happen, when I physically couldn't cope, I reminded myself why I was doing this. I was doing this for the baby. And you are doing this to save the world. And when it gets too hard, and when laughter doesn't help, you have to remember that everyone is literally depending on you right now. And this will end. You have to remember that. We will find a vaccine, or we will find a cure, or we will go through the entire population, and everyone who's vulnerable to it will die. One way or the other, this is going to end, and we have to remember that. And right now, people are depending on you. Hey, Faith! Come here, babe. Just for a sec. The last one of my pregnancies was the hardest. We got... I know! Bring it in here for just a second, and then you can go back and eat. But we decided that this was our last baby. You're not going to come here? Just for a second? You can come right back. We decided this was going to be our last baby. And that also helped, knowing that this was all I could do. I just need you to say hi to some people. Say hi.
Hi.
So, now you can go back and do what you were doing. Thank you, babe. She was worth it. I hung on. I threw up for 25 weeks. And then at 32 weeks, I started having contractions. And I ended up being on partial bed rest for another couple weeks, and then pretty much full bed rest until 38 weeks when I had her. You will make it. You're not going to see as much tangible results. You're not going to see huggable results like I've got right here. I got huggable results out of my nastiness. But you will see results. So there you have it. 5 things that will help you cope with the isolation from COVID-19. Live long and prosper. And remember, depression is a liar.